it's good to see everyone looking so well. Signs are positive. Hopefully, this may be the last meeting we have to hold virtually. Anyway, onto the agenda, and the first item, as ever, the minutes of the previous meeting.
Apologies. Sorry.
Oh, my apologies. We need apologies for absence, don't we?
And then
Thank you, Jeremy, for reminding me.
No apologies at the moment.
Okay. Minutes of the last meeting. Are people content if I go through them?
Sorry, Chair, the interest.
No. I'm getting too keen here.
Excited.
Sorry, I'm flitting between page to page here. Yes, declarations of interest. Jeremy, I understand you've sent around the usual form.
Yes.
Shall we go around in turn, making our declarations as well, if we?
Yes, please. Yes.
Such as there are. Tell you what might be simpler, because our screens will be in different orders. Jeremy, do you want to call our names out and we'll respond?
Yeah. Okay. Chair,
so that nobody's missed.
Yeah. If you could start, please.
Yeah, I've got an interest in all the agenda items, as I'm a member of the LGPS and the Swansea Fund.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peter Jones?
No interest to declare, Jeremy.
Okay. Councillor Alan Lockyer?
The usual ones, Jeremy, that I'm a member of the Pensions Fund, and so several members of my family.
Thank you. Rosemary?
I'm personally not a member of the pension fund. I do have a family member who works for MPT, so she is, yes.
Okay, thank you. David?
I think David's dropped out. I can't see his icon anywhere. Yeah, I can't see his icon anywhere.
Okay. And then officers then, Jeff?
Whole of the agenda, Jeremy mentioned member of the LGPS.
And Steph?
Yeah, whole of the agenda, member of the LGPS.
Karen?
Whole agenda, member of the LGPS.
And the same interest for me, member of the LGPS. Okay, if David comes back in, we can take his interest from there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jeremy. Is this? Sorry, my screen was flickering. I was wondering if it was, but no. Sorry. Okay, so now we do get to the minutes of the last meeting. Are people content if I go through them page by page for accuracy and matters arising at the same time? Yeah, I see some nods. I'm flitting between screens on my computer here, so I'm not going to pick up many nods, I think, or hands. So please do call out. Anything on page 1 of the minutes? Page 2.
Chairman, just an observation. Stand to be corrected by Steph, who's actually online. Was it Steph who attended last time? Was it Carolyn? I can't remember.
I did attend this one. Yes.
Sorry.
It was the Pensions Committee, Carolyn. I remember because there was the issue about the chair wasn't there. I remember being involved in the last meeting. So yeah.
Oh, yes. You actually gave advice.
I did. Yeah. It's all coming back. Sweet.
So that's page 2, scrolling down to page 3. Anything there? Scrolling down to page 4. And page 5. And page 6. Unless I've missed any indications, I don't think there are any matters arising, are there? So would somebody like to move those as a correct record?
Move, Chair.
I second.
Thank you very much. Anybody dissenting on that or abstaining? No. Thank you very much. What do you want me to do about signing a copy, Jeremy?
I can email you a copy. If you can sign it and scan it and send it back, that's fine.
I won't be able to scan it for some time.
Okay.
What did we do last time? I can't remember.
We can sort that out outside the meeting, Chair. And
I can approve them electronically,
Yeah.
if that will
okay,
suffice.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So agenda item 4A is the audit plan for 2021. And Jeff, I think you're going to take us through this item.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, at item 4A before you is the audit plan presented by Audit Wales to the Pension Fund Committee earlier this month, outlining their proposed plan of work in respect of their statutory audit, which they're required to undertake in respect of the financial statements of the pension fund for the financial year ending 31st of March, today actually, 2021. It's the usual boilerplate audit plan in respect of their areas of work and areas of assurance that they're looking to get as a result of their audit work. And as you can see in the outline audit plan, you have you can see some of the high level risks that they will be looking at in respect of management overrides, etc., valuations of assets, and in respect of two particular topical issues, obviously during the last year, the impact of COVID on asset valuations and how they may or may not have impacted the valuation of assets at year end, and also the ongoing issue of how we've treated the impact of the McLeod judgment in respect of members' benefits and how they flow through in respect of our calculation of our liabilities, etc. So Audit Wales have outlined how they're going to gain assurance in respect of their audit work, in respect of those issues, and then also then their usual audit work about the financial controls, how we discharge our responsibilities in respect of that, and how we maintain and deliver our financial functions across both the management of the assets and the delivery of our pension benefits to our members. So usual boilerplate stuff in respect of their audit plan. They're proposing to kick off the work later on and later than normal. They have admitted as a result of the impact of COVID, they have agreed with Welsh Government they will prioritise the completion of the audit of the councils across Wales. Because for your information, Chair, Audit Wales now have the contract to deliver the statutory audits on behalf of all the 8 Welsh pension funds now. So there is a bit of a bottleneck in respect of their resources. So they have indicated that perhaps this year their audit may be delivered a tad later than we've come to expect. So they hope then to be able to come back and report their findings at a pension fund committee November time. I would suspect would be the earliest opportunity they can report their findings. And then you can see then on page 14 where they outline their fee that they're going to charge for their work, and very welcome. They've held the fee as to last year's levels. Happy to take any questions, Chair, from the board in respect of that.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jeffrey, sorry, any questions for Jeff on that?
No.
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 I think David's got his hand up, Chairman.
Okay, David.
Apologies, Chair, but as soon as you said the word any technical, just my machine froze and it collapsed. So just say my apologies. I've just joined the meeting again.
Welcome back, David. Yes, if we can just say that there aren't any questions on this for Jeff, then perhaps we can go back to declarations of interest. And Jeremy was taking declarations.
Yeah, do you have an interest to declare, David, for the meeting?
No questions.
Thanks, David. So that completes this item. So perhaps if we go back to declarations of interest, David, do you have declarations of interest?
No declaration of interest besides being a member of Unison.
I think in the past, David, you've said you're a member of the pension fund.
And the pension fund as well.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think you just need to declare that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, just very pleased as usual, Jeff, that we're using a public sector organisation for our audit as a public sector body. And as you said, the fees have stayed the same. And in fact, didn't they stay the same from the year before last as well?
Yes, they did. They did.
So that is pleasing. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, and that's the employer flexibility statement. So the pension, the audit plan was for information, and this is another information item, isn't it, for us?
Yes, Chairman. If I may, you may recall about this time last year, Chairman, Pension Board received the initial draft funding strategy statement for the pension fund. As is routine, we review the funding strategy statement periodically, and it's usually in line with when we undertake the triennial valuation of the scheme, because the two sit hand in hand. And the Pension Fund Committee approved the current funding strategy statement, as I say, but this time last year. And as it says in the report, the purpose of the funding strategy statement is to establish a clear and transparent funding strategy specific to the fund, which will identify how employers' pension liabilities are best met going forward. As you can see in the report before you today, following the Pension Funds Committee's approval of that last year, additional regulations have been laid which allow administering authorities additional flexibilities in respect of how they discharge their funding strategy. And these flexibilities are mainly in respect of how we deal with employer exits and any outstanding liabilities in respect of those employer exits. Currently under regulation, there is no flexibility in respect of those liabilities. They're payable immediately, upon demand. However, the new regulations which have been laid allow us as the admin authority to offer some discretion and flexibility in which to allow employers to meet those liabilities, because they can be quite considerable sums upon exit of an employer. So we can enter into agreements and flexible terms to allow them to pay back any liabilities outstanding in respect of that exit over a prolonged period. And the amendments to the funding strategy statement that we're proposing in this revised draft just incorporate those flexibilities and allow us those discretions when dealing with employers upon exit. Nothing further to add, really, Chairman. It's that all the detail that I've referenced is included in the report. The minutiae of the flexibilities afforded, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions on this item?
Not so much a question, well, maybe a question, Chair, if I may. First of all, obviously I'm a new member of this board, and so much of this agenda, although this is now my second meeting, is still very unfamiliar to me. I know there's a reference later in the papers to training and so forth. But in relation to this particular paper, before I came onto Swansea Council, I worked for 15 years for the RSPB, based in Cardiff, working on a number of issues under the general heading of sustainable development, wildlife management and so on. And one of those responsibilities, I sat for 7 years as RSPB representative on the then Welsh Government Climate Change Commission. And that was a key area of responsibility for me, particularly in relation to the impacts or potential impacts of climate change on wildlife in Wales and indeed more globally. And I notice in this strategy document, or draft funding strategy document, paragraph 614, which refers to climate change. And obviously this is a long-term risk that investment bodies face. And I note the measures that have been taken by the Climate Change Committee in terms of trying to mitigate the potential effects of climate change on the fund and its ability to meet its commitments and so on. I notice in terms of particular wording about fundamental change, economic, political, social systems, global financial system, and so on. I mean, these are quite basic issues. And I just wondered, does this board have a view, or does this board simply endorse the decisions and positions that are taken by the committee? I'd be grateful for any advice in relation to that, please, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, well, perhaps to deal with the last point first, we certainly don't simply endorse what the committee does, although it's true to say that the committee has the power over the decisions. We're a bit of a hybrid body in local government terms. I suspect the nearest thing, although we're certainly not, is something like a scrutiny committee in local government terms. So we certainly don't. And the whole ESG issue is something which I know the whole board have a keen interest in. And those who were members back then participated in the day which formulated the policy, which actually must be due for review in the near future. So that's dealing with your last question, Councillor Jones. I think we may be straying a little off the actual agenda item, but I'm prepared to be indulgent. Jeff, do you want to deal with the rest of the points made?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, quite. I was just going to give reassurance to Councillor Jones in that although this document and this funding strategy statement does make reference to climate change risks, etc., as the Chairman says, the appropriate strategy document will be the climate risk strategy policy that we've got and approved, and also the investment strategy, which is informed by that climate risk strategy. So as the Chairman has indicated, the Pension Fund Committee has been quite inclusive of the local pension board when it has been developing and evolving and implementing its climate change and risk and RI part.
I don't know if anybody else is having difficulties, but Jeff seems to have frozen on me.
Sorry. Can everyone else hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, back.
It is an inclusive approach, Councillor Jones, and as the Chairman indicates, when we come to refresh this, because the initial target set was to reduce carbon emissions by 50% by 2022. You know, we're coming towards that date, so it's an opportune time to reset and have a look again at what aspirational targets we can set ourselves moving forward. And you will have your opportunity as a full member of the local pension board then to participate in that day and put your views forward, you know, to your colleagues around the table now, but also, you know, to stand side by side with pension fund committee members and be able to give your views then.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Sorry, Jeff, at the risk of going off topic, did I hear you say that there's going to be a repeat of the day that was held to formulate our policy?
Nothing firm now as yet in the diary, Chairman, but as part of, as you'll see later on in the business plan, it is continuing to review and reset our ambitions in respect of our climate risk policy and RI policy. It's a constantly evolving and moving landscape in that opportunities and developments are arising very quickly in this space, and Councillor Jones will be pleased to hear that the financial services industry is waking up to this now and realizing that they need to address the demands of climate aware investors, and the products and ways that they mitigate this risk are coming to market quite quickly now. So the options are a lot greater now than they were when you initially formulated that policy, 2017, I think it was, Chairman, that you sat around that table and formulated that policy. So it's quite right that it's reset and revisited at this interval.
Yeah, I think the actual format there, for those that weren't present, we had a joint day with our colleagues from the committee. And we're able to exchange views and exchange learning. And I think the feedback from everyone was that was an enormously useful format in coming to a policy. Councillor Jones, I don't know if you were able to attend. There was recent training on net zero targets, which I don't know if you were able to attend, but I know some members were. If not, then that may be available, and given your interests, that you may find that of interest.
Yes, I wasn't, but yes, I would be. Thank you, Chair.
Jeff, do we have the facility to send access to that training to Councillor Jones?
I'll get Karen to check. I didn't actually attend that training, but I think Karen might have attended, and she can check with the organisers where it's available for view afterwards. I'm sure they made a recording of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So going back to this agenda item, are there any questions for Jeff on it? If not, I just heard one, Jeff.
Yep.
How often do you foresee there being recourse to this policy with requests for flexibility?
Well, it's quite timely, actually. Before this year, I'd have said rarer than hen's teeth. But especially for us in Swansea and us in Wales. However, it's more of an issue in England, whereby they have academies. The notion of academies where schools can almost become independent bodies themselves, and incur standalone financial bodies who are then admitted as employers into the scheme, and it's to mitigate those sorts of risks. As far as Swansea is concerned, our range of admitted employers is very small, and one of our provisos for the committee approving admission into the LGPS is having an overarching sponsoring employer guarantee. So what do we mean by sponsoring employer? We mean a tax raising body or a body with direct government funding, such as a scheduled body such as a university or a college, or Neath Talbot Council or a Swansea Council. So any admission body that the committee admits in Swansea comes with a cast iron guarantee from one of those sponsoring bodies. So on exit, should that admission body want to leave the scheme, the actuary is required to undertake evaluation identifying whether there is a surplus or a deficit in respect of those members of that employer. And if there is a deficit, then the fund has recourse to that employer for that deficit. However, should that employer have exited because of business failure or whatever other reason, the chances of getting that outstanding liability is pretty slim. So that's when we have recourse to the sponsoring employer guarantee. If you recall, about this time last year, we reported to committee the demise of Rathbone Training, who were an admitted body. Both Gower College and Swansea Council recommended some 2p transfer of staff in respect of that service, and so we requested. We were asked to consider the request from both those employers to admit Rathbone Training as an admitted body of the pension scheme. We required the requisite employer guarantees, and admission was granted. However, as reported, Rathbone Training went into liquidation last year with some outstanding liabilities. So now we are having to have recourse to the sponsoring employers, which is both Swansea Council and Newcastle College, who are the parent company of Rathbone Training, to meet those liabilities. The flexibilities that these afford us now, these regulations afford us, should those sums be unpalatable to be payable in one go, if it's quite a small organisation, we can consider then payment terms over 3 years, or on a monthly basis, just to allow and ease that meeting of that obligation. So that's an example of how these flexibilities can be implemented. Funny enough, we're just in the process now of recovering those outstanding liabilities in respect of both those guarantors.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions? I can't see any indications. Now, this has been adopted as policy by the committee, hasn't it? And it's come to us for information. Am I correct or not, Jeff? I see you looking a bit hesitant.
It's been adopted and approved in principle, Chairman, subject to consultation. We're required under regulation to consult on the funding strategy statement with all our employers, and subject to them being satisfied or no amendments to it. Yes, they've approved it as it stands.
Okay. How long is that consultation period going to be, Jeff?
I think it's very short, because it's as I say, it's normally boilerplate stuff. The consultation on the original draft funding strategy statement lasted for just over 2 weeks, I think, and we had no responses from our employers. We're expecting similar to this one in that, it's affording potential exit employers additional flexibility. So I don't think they will have adverse views on the proposed amendments.
No. Okay, so it's come to us for information. Unless anybody has any last-minute thoughts, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a fairly usual agenda item for us, the breaches report. And Jeff, are you going to take this as well?
Thanks, Chairman. I'm not preparing to speak to this report in detail, Chairman. As you indicated, it's a standing item on the agenda. We're required, in line with best practice and TPR recommendations, to report breaches to the committee. The new breaches since last time we reported to you are on page 69 of your pack, and the preceding page. Happy to take any questions on those new breaches, Chairman.
Yes, it looks as though the type of breaches are familiar to us as well as the report. Are there any questions on this? No. I can't see everybody. I've just got some icons down at the bottom, so please do call out if you want to participate. But I'm not getting any indications. So moving on to the business plan, item 5C. Jeff.
Thanks, Chairman. I made reference to the business plan earlier on the agenda, in line with best practice, just as a framework really with which the pension fund can discharge its business and objectives for the year. We formalise the high level objectives, etc., in the business plan on an annual basis, and then it's a timely reminder to review, you know, if you've met the previous objectives that you've set the previous year. And as you can see at the appendix on page 79 of your papers, the review of the targets of the year ending today, and then also on the following page, on page 81, we set out items and targets for the forthcoming financial year. And as indicated to Councillor Jones earlier on, in there it is to continue to implement the fund's ESG policy in respect of reduced carbon exposure, responsible investments, and also to actually review that policy. Other important items on there are to implement training as a result of the knowledge and skills assessment that you all took part in last year. And again, there's a report following this one outlining the plans for training for the forthcoming year. Following the approval of this business plan by the Pension Fund Committee earlier this month, Chairman, the Wales Pension Partnership approved their business plan. So this business plan dovetails in with their business plan. And as you can see at item on page 81, item number 3, action number 3 is take amended WPP inter-authority agreement to council for amendment to recognise scheme member representative on the JGC. You know, this is an important development in respect of the governance of the Wales Pension Partnership, in that thanks to lobbying and work by a number of elected members who sit on the Joint Governance Committee of the Wales Pension Partnership, the Joint Governance Committee have agreed and approved a scheme member representative to sit on the Joint Governance Committee as an observer member. And I'm sure if you, Chairman, will want to come in and say a bit more about this item, if you want to now or after, Chair.
Well, I don't think there's an awful lot to be said about it. I welcome it personally. I think that member representation should be built in, secured into the pension partnership. I would like to pay tribute. You've mentioned a number of members. I know one in particular who's been very vocal in championing the cause of members, is the chair of the Pension Committee, Councillor Lloyd, and I've heard him speak very eloquently and passionately on this topic. And has been instrumental behind getting it finally getting the Wales Pension Partnership to catch up with other pools across the border in recognising, ensuring that the scheme members' voices are heard. I think, unless there's anything anybody else wants to say about the membership of the pool. That's all I'd say, Jeff. Yes, Dave.
I don't mention the membership of the pool, but just to say, you know, the work that's gone into the business plan up to year end in this year, notice it all been achieved or ongoing. So I'd like to thank those who put the efforts in for the business plan, and we're very much reaching our targets. So thank you anyway.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Dave. Jeff, thank you for giving me that opportunity. Councillor Jones, I see a hand.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A couple of quick points, if I may, which may or may not be sensible and helpful. The first of which, I noticed reading through the business plan that the dog that isn't barking is Brexit. And I just wondered to what extent, I couldn't see the word anywhere, maybe I missed it. But I just wonder to what extent, in terms of thinking, we have been taking account in terms of our investment strategy with businesses likely to be affected by Brexit?
Quite right, Councillor Jones, and I suppose it is an omission in that regard, but I don't want to be dismissive of it in my response. However, being a £2.5 billion pension scheme, our investment strategy is very much global in its outlook. I know historically, because our liabilities are denominated in sterling, there has historically been a tilt towards UK denominated investments and holdings in that respect. However, quite a while ago now, the investment strategy of the pension scheme has always taken a global approach, a diversified portfolio across geographies, across all geographies, all asset classes. So hopefully the impact of Brexit can be mitigated in that respect. However, you're quite right. Lots of UK investments which and companies which deal with Europe, as you read in the press and anecdotally hearing issues of dealing with the EU post Brexit. So there are challenges. However, there is no material correlation between Brexit and the impact on our pension scheme, because hopefully it has been mitigated by taking that global approach.
Okay, well, I'm reassured, I think, by that. My other totally unrelated point is about training. Of course, I think, named as one of two who are targets for training, and I'm very grateful for that, and if target is the right word. But it just slightly worried me when I read through that section that it gave me the impression that I should have been trained before I joined the board rather than after I joined the board. I just wonder whether Jeffrey probably could comment on that.
My very lame attempts at engaging with you and providing you with an overview in that 1.5 hour telephone conversation, I hope would suffice as some induction training. However, in normal circumstances, Karen will attest to this. She would have booked you on quite a comprehensive 3-day. I think our most recent member to have undertaken this training is Rosemary. I think when she came on board, it's quite a comprehensive 3-dayer in Cardiff, whereby you have people from central government, from MHCLG coming down to talk to you about the scheme. Professional investment managers, actuaries, etc., giving you you'll be fully indoctrinated and brainwashed at that 3-day session, Councillor Jones, so that you will, as you come out the other end, all you'll speak is LGPS. So I apologise that my very
criticism, Jeffrey, just a gentle inquiry.
Yeah, my cursory 1.5 hour overview was very. It was very, quick canter through, and hopefully gave you enough to not feel uncomfortable in these meetings. But you've highlighted a very important issue in that, with the cyclical nature of elected members' tenure in these things, it's quite a Councillor Lockyer now has been in post for quite a number of years now, and he's hopefully over that time built up the requisite skills and knowledge, etc. But it would be a great shame if we lost his skills and knowledge, after the next election. So there is a degree of, hopefully long-term thinking in your membership and participation on this board. That you do have an opportunity to build on the knowledge that you have now and take it forward and discharge your role going forward.
I should warn the board that I represent a very marginal seat as far as my electoral future is concerned, so I can't guarantee that I'll be here beyond May 2022. And of course, reading through the papers, I'm gradually developing a kind of self-taught understanding of what it's all about and so forth. I'm not sure whether I'd look forward to 3 days in Cardiff, but thank you for that, and I'll wait to see what happens. Thank you.
Peter, you saying that Jeffrey hasn't sold you on those 3 days?
This is news to me.
Right.
I'm impressed that Jeff is offering 1.5-hour bespoke lectures on the local government pension scheme.
Very impressive.
I'm sure he's going to be inundated with requests.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
As somebody who's done the 3-day training, Peter, as somebody who's done the 3-day training about 18 months ago, it's worth going to it, but you do end up being a bit shell-shocked at the end. But the best training you can have is actually by attending these meetings, because you learn so much.
Yeah, that's what I'm gradually putting.
It's like learning to drive a car. You pass your test by attending those meetings, but you don't learn to drive until you actually get in the car by yourself.
Yeah, I did study economics at university, but it doesn't seem to be very helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
We have an item on training coming up further down the agenda. Jeff, we rather interrupted you, I think, in full flow there. Had you come to an end, or?
Well, almost, Chairman, and then just to bring your attention to another couple of documents appended to the actual business plan documents is the annual budget, and then also appended to it is a high level risk register. Happy to leave it there, Chairman, and take questions.
Yes, I think we broadened out our questions away from the discrete topic. But any further questions on the business plan? I can't see any hands or anybody jumping up and down to attract my attention. Oh, you threw me the dummy there, Councillor Jones. I thought you were just turning over your page. So unless there is anything else, that's another information item for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So moving on, we come to very appropriately trustee training. And Jeff, you're taking this as well, are you?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, noting our discussion and the business plan about training, nothing really further to add, just to emphasise, obviously, the statutory obligation on you as local pension board members to ensure, that you are adequately trained to discharge your role, and then we as the admin authority are here to support you in getting that adequate training and helping you acquire the skills and knowledge that you need to do your role. And obviously, during the last 12 months, as you alluded to, Chairman, the provision of training has tilted online, and you Chairman have embraced it and have engaged very actively online in that training. I don't know whether it's a positive, a better thing, or whether you prefer in-person training, but the training is still being delivered during these times, and it is still being provided. If I'm not one to say whether it's better or worse than physical provision, but at least there's an attempt still to deliver that training. The TPR are always very keen on ensuring and getting demonstrable proof that trustee members and local pension board members are adequately trained and have the skills and knowledge. This talk about making it mandatory to have professional trustees and professional board members on board and to lead these boards. That makes it the threshold for competence even higher in that you're expected to discharge your role in line with a professional trustee. And then further down, the report just outlines some training that we've identified and we've referenced, and again, as I said earlier on, the Wales Pension Partnerships training plan was approved earlier this month. And we're expected to dovetail in with that, because as the chairman alluded to, a lot of the training that has been provided via the WPP arrangements rather than a specific Swansea provision. So again, that collaboration broadens that training opportunity for board members. And also you'll see it's a slightly different lens that you're looking at the training through. It'll be through the lens of the collaborative approach, the idiosyncrasies and difficulties of running a pooled investment vehicle, rather than just solely looking at a single fund and the issues affecting a single fund. Happy to take questions on that, Chairman.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions on this? Perhaps a comment, if I may, Jeff. I agree with you that the move to virtual training has been very worthwhile. From experience over the past couple of years, it seems to me that there's an awful lot of ad hoc training offered by some of the financial industry big hitters, and obviously they have their own agenda in offering that training, often free in inverted commas, but obviously that doesn't fit into any of our annual training plans, and often seems to be offered at fairly short notice within the coming month. But some of it, as I say, I've personally found some of it extremely valuable. Is there any, as part of the training plan, any prospect of that sort of training being circulated to board and committee members to take advantage of? I know that it comes at quite short notice for particularly elected members and people who have a nominal 9-to-5 day job. And I'm not suggesting it be done instead of a planned annual plan, but more as an add-on, a bolt-on.
Your observation is bang on there, Chairman. It is scattergun in its offering and availability. And it does come, across my desk quite regularly. However, I'm just conscious of the time and training burden that we're placing on you as board members, because probably I could send you an email offering some form of training or engagement with the financial services sector, because as you say, Chairman, the first half will be quite interesting in terms of training for your requirements, and the second half will be a marketing pitch for whatever latest product they're looking to sell, and that's fine. You have to make your pact with the devil, I suppose, in some respects, and as long as you go in with your eyes open and take it on face value, some of it can be very, very, very good. But I was just conscious of inducing training fatigue, and maybe just cherry picking maybe some of the better ones whereby we have existing relationships with them, so there is no conflict of interest in respect of that, they can provide it. But happy to share this stuff as it becomes available. But as I say, you may suffer from training fatigue and then just delete without reading after a while. But yeah, quite happy to do so, Chairman. If you want more training.
I'm not sure there's want and need, isn't there? And I'm conscious of the results of the assessment, which we did last year, which ought to feed into a proper annual plan. I'm not sure any of us would be putting our hands up for daily emails, but if you were prepared, Jeff, to act as a filter, to filter out the more obvious marketing exercises and look at what we might be needed. Like most of these things, once you sign up for one and they have your email, I tend to get a couple of emails a month, which in amongst all the other emails I get, I don't find too onerous. But if I, what do the rest of the board think? Would you be happy for Jeff to send out information emails with perhaps no indication that you have to attend the training, but it's there if you want it? And the training that's planned would be differentiated to explain that that's part of our annual planned training.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Chair. And we're keeping up then with current training as it comes through, rather than it just coming up ad hoc, as we say. So no, I'd certainly agree with that. If Jeff has agreed to do it, I know he has got much to do on a normal day to day. So.
Yeah, me too. I'd be happy for that to happen.
Thank you, Alan. Rosemary, I see a thumbs up as well. The other thing I wanted to say, Jeff, is how useful it is to have joint training through the WPP, not least to get the views and experiences of people that are doing the same job as board members as we are, but for other funds, and also to be meeting with committee members as well. That seems to be a side effect of joint training, which I found particularly valuable. Yes, but perhaps that's one of the side effects of training in person, which we do lose virtually. So the sooner it's able to resume, the better.
Not telling tales out of school about our fellow WPP funds. So some WPP funds do limit training opportunities to just pension fund committee members in some instances, and do not open out the opportunity to local pension board members like we do, for example. So it's not universal, this all-inclusive let's work together approach. I'm not going to name and shame, but there are a number of funds that still keep some training pension fund committee specific and pension fund committee only still.
Yes, I think, speaking personally from the very beginning, I think Swansea has always taken an inclusive approach to that, which I'm certainly very grateful for. Anything else on the whole issue of the training plan? Jeff, it just struck me, while you're sending out these emails, would it be onerous to explore with the committee whether they value these emails, or whether they'd not want any more dropping through their inbox?
I can explore that with the pension fund chairman.
Excellent. Unless there's anything else on the training plan. Now, this is our training plan, isn't it? So do we formally adopt it? I'm scrolling up and down here. So we have to determine. So I'm taking that as we vote on it, Jeff and Jeremy?
To
adopt it?
Jeremy, advised by you, I think the Pension Fund Committee have formally approved it.
Yes,
So
so
in terms of the budget implications and the formal decision to implement it. However, you can endorse it, Chairman, as
Yes.
as a local pension board.
Yeah, and it's not for information, so yes, you can agree it, definitely.
Yeah, so would somebody like to propose that we adopt the training plan, certainly insofar as it affects us rather than the committee? We don't want to trespass. Thank you, Rosemary.
I'll second that.
I'm second it.
Okay, anybody against? Anybody abstaining? I didn't see anybody, but I'm conscious I can't see all the participants on my screen, so do speak up. No, okay, so we've adopted that. Thank you very much. And the next item is clearly for information. It's the exit cap update. Jeff, I think this one's going to run on.
Well, if you recall, at the last pension board meeting we had just before Christmas, I think I brought before your report indicating that the 95k cap was being implemented in November, and I communicated to you at that time all the objections and pending judicial reviews, which are about to be launched by numerous bodies, lawyers, unions, etc., in respect of the flaws in the proposed implementation of the 95k cap. However, they pressed on ahead and implemented it in November. And there was this limbo period whereby there was an absence of mitigating legislation in the LGPS for us to be able to implement it fairly. So as outlined at the time, LGPS funds ran the risk of falling foul of the 95k cap rule if it wasn't implemented, but then falling foul of LGPS regulations if it did implement it. So they caught between the devil and the deep blue sea almost. And Welsh Government recognised that, and they implemented some work through where they would give their Welsh Government override if there were any exits during that period post November 2020. However, in February, I think HM Treasury saw the writing was on the wall in respect of the pending judicial reviews, and moved to disapply those regulations in February of 2021. So in effect, it's as if they were never implemented as at 21st of Feb. Correspondence that we received from HM Treasury MLCLG is that alternative arrangements shall be worked up at pace. So they are determined to bring in some form of exit payment cap. However, the way it's implemented hopefully will be lawful going forward and not disadvantageous to certain groups, as was the previous proposal. And similarly, which didn't really get a lot of press, the parallel consultation exercise that they launched for wider public sector reform in the LGPS, that was halted as well. And there's no indication of whether that will be resurrected in a different form. That has been halted. So the exit cap in its current form has gone away. However, an alternative arrangement is being worked on at pace, as I say, and wider public sector reform exits in respect of exits has been halted. So as I said, Chairman, it's a for information report, and just to bring that to your attention, as you say, it's been quite an embarrassing period for government in respect of pension legislation, because obviously we mentioned McLeod earlier on and the mess that has left behind, and obviously this now as well, because for the Swansea Fund we didn't implement any exits which breached the cap post November and pre February, so we don't have any uncomfortable positions to untangle and unwind in respect of the disapplication. But I'm sure there are a number of funds which did have to navigate that minefield and now probably subject to legal challenge and recompense and compensation payments, etc., for implementing it. So yeah, it's all a bit of a mess and a bit of an embarrassment for the government. But glad that it's been put to bed for the moment. Happy to take questions, Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. The questions for Jeff? No, no. Was that a flash or was my eyes deceiving? I think it was just a cough. Yeah, I agree, Jeff. It's good to see that the regulations were withdrawn, but the political will to implement a cap is still there, and I think we're fortunate in Wales that there seems to be a political will as well in Cardiff to resist that or mitigate that to whatever extent they can. But I'm sure it's going to come again. I'm not sure this is a government that's particularly concerned about embarrassment. In the great scheme of government embarrassments, this one seems to be quite low down there. But yes, any other government having to withdraw regulations the day before judicial review would be very embarrassing. Councillor Jones.
Yes, just very quickly. First of all, just to endorse your comments there. Excuse me, Chair. This government seems very inclined to withdrawing questionable decisions that it's made over all sorts of issues, but that's another matter. But what really amused me about this, and there is an element of amusement, the term disapplied. I thought that was a very nice term, disapplication. I've never come across this before. It seems a useful synonym, presumably, for we've got it wrong. And, so just that silly observation, Chair, disapplied, a new word to me.
Quite, Councillor Jones and Chairman. It vexed me the difference between disapplied and all the other. I suppose it was the least controversial and least embarrassing verb they could use.
I shall remember it for the future when I can say, I'm disapplying that because. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, Jeff, did you want to come back on any of those? No.
Not at all. That's all.
Well, it's a matter of waiting and seeing for the next front on this battle, isn't it? Thank you. Dave, were you gesturing there? You're in silhouette for me, Dave, so I don't know if you were indicating you wanted to say anything.
No, I'm happy with what's happened so far.
Yeah.
I'm sure our members will fully agree, that this cap has been lifted because, it does affect a lot of people who are low earners, not just high earners. And I think people were surprised how it affected those middle wage earners.
Yes, I agree, and personally, I think it also shows the value in bringing legal challenges to these decisions, because I'm sure it's no coincidence that it was just a day or two before the legal challenge that the regulations were withdrawn, and obviously there have been substantial costs incurred by the bodies who took those challenges, including. Steph and I know the Local Government Lawyers Association, so praise for them. Unless anybody wants to say anything, we'll move on. And the next item is to decide whether or not we go into private by exclusion of the public. The reasons are given, set out in the paper. Unless anybody has any questions for either Steph or generally on those questions. On those reasons, no. Would somebody like to move that we move into private session?
I move, Chair.
Anybody?
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, thank you, Rosemary. Anybody against or abstaining? I see none. So we're formally moving into private. If I can just pause there for a moment, just to confirm, Jeremy, that we have